victims of the Cromwell Street serial murderers. Back to face the music, Nick Leeson.
9 other missing young women who may have been victims of Fred and Rosemary West. Details of the women, known to have visited the West's home in Cromwell Street, Gloucester, were released yesterday after Rosemary West's trial ended. Today she's being transferred from Winchester Prison, where she was held during the trial. It's thought she'll serve her 10 life sentences in Durham top security prison. Ben McCarthy reports.
From Cheltenham to Gloucester, complete news and information for Gloucestershire.
The 7 o'clock news, good morning. Rosemary West has spent her first night behind prison bars as a convicted
Gloucester woke
serial
this morning
killer.
to hear further
Jury
revelations
at
about the
Winchester
murders
Crown
which have
Court
been
found her
carried
guilty
out
of
in their
10 counts
midst.
of murder.
A special edition of the city's local paper has been published, giving details of the 10 murders which were known to have been carried out by Rose and Fred West. The father of one of the victims, Shirley Robinson, came to Cromwell Street from Germany to visit the place where his daughter died and to pay his last respects. And it's believed the Wests could have claimed more victims. Bridget Morgan's sister, Eileen McFadden, went missing in 1972. She believes she was killed by the couple in Cromwell Street.
Well, yes, because it said she's one of the people in Fred West 5. I did watch his daughter on there last night.
This is one of the places it's thought the Wests could have dumped more bodies. Fred West spent time working here at the old mill in Berkeley shortly before his arrest. Bob Presser from the FBI is one of the world's leading experts on serial killers. He says Rose West may yet be able to help the police.
They usually do remember the great numbers of their victims, not by name or identifiable, numbers, addresses, anything of that like, but by the individual, possibly her appearance, where it occurred, when it occurred. And if you can settle these people down, they can give you a lot more information than they oftentimes do.
Later this afternoon, police will give more details about their search for 9 other women who were linked to the Wests and have gone missing over the past 20 years. Ben McCarthy, ITN, Gloucester.
Well, Professor David Cantor is the head of Liverpool University's Investigative Psychology Unit, and he's the author of a book on psychological profiling. Professor Cantor, do you believe, with your experience, that there are more victims of the West?
Well, it's not my experience, but the studies that we've done of a few hundred serial killers does suggest that the rate at which they kill may be anything of up to at least 1 a year. So if you're talking of a 20-year period, then we may only have half of the murders actually recorded. It's difficult to say, though, without seeing the details of the police reports and so on, which we haven't had access to.
Now, one of the features of this case is obviously the fact that a woman has been involved in such horrific murders. This is extremely unusual, but what is it, do you think, that triggers a woman to do this kind of thing?
Well, I think triggering is always an unhelpful way of looking at it. People have a way of dealing with the world out of which certain sorts of horrific acts evolve. And certainly the relationship with a man who was carrying out some abuse and exploitation of others would have encouraged her in relation to trying to hold on to him and respond to his requirements.
Although, in fact, in this case, she has been portrayed more as the dominant person.
Well, I think it's very misleading to think of one or the other as dominant. They would have fed on each other in a variety of different ways, and it would be in the fact that both of them got away with it, that they then were encouraged to continue.
The fact that both of them were themselves the victims of violence in their childhood, is that significant?
Well, it helps to explain the process. It's par for the course, in a sense, that people are treated themselves as objects and exploited, and they learn to treat others in the same way.
I suppose the other factor that people are thinking about is why on earth they were able to get away with it for so long.
Well, that is a big question about the whole process of people, first of all, being anonymous within the community and people not recognizing it, and then the early signs not being really responded to by police investigators. One can only assume that it's something to do with the quality of the location and the fact that people in that area just could not believe something like that could be happening.
Professor Cantor, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
The trial of Rosemary West has once again turned the spotlight on so-called checkbook journalism. Several witnesses who gave evidence at Winchester Crown Court admitted that some news organisations paid them thousands of pounds for their stories. This morning, the Lord Chancellor, the Attorney General and the Press Complaints Commission said they're examining whether there should be tighter controls. Kevin Dunn reports.
The Lord Chancellor, Lord Mackay, said he was calling for a report into checkbook journalism because the West case had raised issues of principle for the courts and the media. The Attorney General said legislation might be necessary to curb the practice.
We shall all be considering the matter. If we are minded to have legislation, I'm quite sure we shall consult with all aspects of the media, and then we shall make up our minds.
But this isn't a knee-jerk reaction?
No, indeed it's not, no. But I think it's a reaction which, seeing the volume of checkbook journalism involved in this case, it's one we've got to have. We've got to look very seriously at the issue once again.
Media organisations were said to have approached at least 7 witnesses in the West trial, offering between £750 and £100,000 for exclusives. Lawyers say there is a danger the witnesses might exaggerate their accounts to make them more marketable. The Gloucester MP wants a public inquiry.
The fear is that by offering witnesses large sums of money, their evidence might in some way have been tainted or exaggerated. That is a good reason for public disquiet.
Rose West's solicitor this morning repeated his concerns.
It surely gives them an incentive to want the jury to believe their story. Their story's got to be credible for them to pick up the dosh at the end of the day. And certainly as far as Crown witnesses were concerned, that would have meant having a vested interest in a conviction.
Meanwhile, the Press Complaints Commission announced that it too would be discussing the conduct of the media at a meeting next week. Kevin Dunn, ITN.
About to embark